name is Isaiah Magera. From this point on, I will be referring to myself as Boog, and this is the Boogieman Strength YouTube channel. As of the recording of this, it is Sunday, June 15th, 2025. And my goal with the channel is to track my own personal weight loss and hopefully inspire someone else to start theirs, even if it's just one person. I've been a bigger person most of my life, whether it was height or weight. In elementary school, it was mostly height. I was mostly always taller than everybody else. And then around 10 years old, I started gaining some weight. And then I hit that awkward teenage growth spurt where I was like 6 feet tall at 13 years old, about 180 pounds or so. And then the weight quickly caught up with me. I was able to mostly keep it managed through high school because I was always playing sports. I played baseball from the time I was 5 years old up through high school. I played soccer until I was about 10 or 11. I wrestled in middle school just for 2 years. And then when I got to high school, I started playing football. So in high school, it was just football and baseball. And between those two, even though I had a gap between both seasons, I was still able to keep my weight somewhat under control. And then when I got out of high school, when I got out of organized sports where I was like basically required to be working out, the wheels just fell off. I didn't know how to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Honestly, I, didn't really care about what I was putting in my body. I didn't care how much I was putting into my body. It was just kind of I don't want to say downward spiral, but I guess it kind of was because I really didn't know what I was doing to myself. So in 2019, I started dating my now wife, got engaged in 2019. And we had originally planned to get married in 2020. Well, the events of 2020, I don't need to tell anybody what happened. It really derailed our plans, so we had to put it off for a year. But in May of 2020, I remember I weighed 348 pounds. My wife and I, we had set the date for our wedding for June of 2021. And so in late May, early June, somewhere around in there of 2020, I decided to make it a mission of mine to lose at least 100 pounds for our wedding. I started doing what I had always heard people say to lose weight. Everybody, I think it's the worst advice looking back on it. I think it's the worst advice anybody could possibly give you was eat less, exercise more. And so that's what I did. I went about it entirely the wrong way. So basically what I was doing, I was waking up, walking at least 3 miles a day before work, and I would go to work, get another sometimes up to 10,000 steps in just at work. And so I was walking, 13, sometimes 15,000 steps a day, which is all well and good. But, I was losing weight like crazy, but it was because I wasn't eating anything. There were some days where I would go to Jack in the Box on my lunch break at work, and I would get 2 or 4 tacos, which are delicious, by the way. And some days that would be all I ate for the day. And if you don't know, those things are less than 200 calories each. So I was eating, less than 800 calories a day while I was burning, you know, probably close to 2,000. I was in an extreme calorie deficit. And, of course, the weight just melted off. But my wife and I got married on June 26, 2021. And I had spent so much of that time leading up to June 26th just focused on June 26th. I was like, I need to hit my goal by then. I want to be at least 100 pounds down. By then, everything was June 26th, June 26th, June 26th. That I never once during any of that considered June 27th or any day following that. And so I did accomplish my goal, which was awesome. I was proud of myself and everything. I weighed in on my on my wedding day, the morning of my wedding. I weighed in at 248 pounds. So I had, hit my goal right on the head. I had lost exactly 100 pounds from my wedding. I was ecstatic. It was great. I, you know, felt super accomplished. And then a couple days later, my wife and I leave for our honeymoon. We had saved up quite a bit for our honeymoon. And so we were able to go to Disney World. I remember as soon as we got there, one of the very first things I did once, walking through the gates and everything was I bought a churro. That trip kind of started the downward spiral that I had been in before, where I was like, hey, I accomplished my goal and everything. Now it's time to kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor kind of thing when my wife and I were in Disney World. Like I said, I had accomplished my goal of dropping 100 pounds for the wedding and everything. I was like, all right, cool. Now I can eat again. And I was buying snacks left and right there. I was not paying any mind to calories or anything in the meals, which, you know, you probably shouldn't do to an extent on vacation because, you're on vacation. Enjoy it, at least some. But I went way too hard. I ended up leaving Walt Disney World. I went there 248 pounds. I left there 265 pounds. So I gained 17 pounds in less than 2 weeks just because I didn't control myself. I wasn't, disciplining myself like I was before. I would love to say that that ended in Disney World, but it didn't. It did not whatsoever. It just started a terrible trend that I've been on since. I got back from Disney World a couple months later. I got into the sport of strongman. I love the sport and everything. I love watching it, everything. I again went about that entirely the wrong way. I've seen, I've been watching videos of other guys and they're like, oh, I eat 8, 10, 12,000 calories a day. I have to do that in order to maintain my strength and everything. And so me being as, ignorant as I was like, okay, like if I want to do well in this sport, I have to eat, 8, 10, 12,000 calories a day. Well, the difference between me and the pros that are doing this is they are putting up way heavier weights than I'm able to, as I was a novice. The reason those guys are able to eat that much is because, they're throwing up crazy weights, they're burning way more calories by doing so, and I'm trying to eat as much as they are while putting up not even half the amount of weight that they do. And so, of course, it started this really bad eating habit where I just started eating whatever and I was like, oh, I'll burn it off, even though probably never did. I was consuming far more than I was able to burn off, which just resulted in a massive weight gain. And if I remember correctly, I think I gained all of that weight back within a year. All the weight that I had lost, I gained over 100 pounds back in a year. So in 2020, I went from being 348 pounds to in 2021 being 248 pounds to in 2022 being back over 350 pounds. And I wish, I could say that that was a wake up call for me. It wasn't. In 2022, I was really consistent in the gym. I was, training every day, strongman. So I was, didn't really care about what my body looked like, really how I felt. All I cared about was the number that I was putting on or putting up in the gym, with various lifts and everything. And, just completely disregarded how I felt. I felt like a slug all the time. I just did not look good at all. That was very evident. I did two novice strongman competitions. In both, I didn't place very high. I didn't even podium. I was like fourth, fifth, or sixth in both of them. If you looked at the spreadsheet, all of my static lifts, like my deadlift, my log press, my stones, that kind of stuff, all of those were, I was in the top three. So you would think with those I would be a podium finisher. That wasn't the case, because on the moving events like the farmer's carry or the truck push, the moving events, I lost a lot of points in because I was, towards last on all of those, just because, I couldn't move well because I was so heavy. 2023 rolls around. I was pretty consistent, going to the gym every day for the first half of 2023. And then the second half of 2023, some events that I will not get into or disclose happened, which derailed me from being able to train every day. From that point on, it was very rare for me to go to the gym, like at all. Not just to train strongman, but I just mean like just in general. And then in 2024, I probably spent the equivalent of 1 month going to the gym. And I can say with confidence to this point today, I have not been to the gym in any capacity whatsoever since August of 2024. And that's what's got me up to this point today. Like I said, I haven't trained since probably August of 2024. I haven't really been doing anything in terms of, my health. Just really haven't been taking care of myself, which is, hard to admit, but it's true. So that's why I'm starting this YouTube channel. I'm doing it as a way to, I'm doing it for multiple reasons, really. I'm doing it to create a way to hold myself accountable if I do gain somewhat of a following, even if it's just, a couple people. If I do gain somewhat of a following, those people are going to expect to see, like, oh, I'm watching this guy to see if he actually does what he says he's going to do. And so that's going to hold myself accountable. And I'm also starting this to be something that I don't see very much on YouTube. There's a million fitness influencers out there. But what I've noticed is most of them don't actually show like how to maintain a fit lifestyle, or achieve one in general. A lot of them are, doing challenges, 5 bodybuilders versus 5 Marines, who wins, and these fitness comps and everything. And it's like, those videos are entertaining to an extent, but you know, a fitness influencer should be influencing people to, get in shape or achieve what they want to achieve. And that's just not what I'm seeing from anybody. You're like, oh, this guy, must know what he's talking about and everything. I want to look like him. Let's see, and then you go to this link in their bio and it's like, oh, sign up for my, app that's $50 a month, but it'll get you in shape. The problem I have with that is not everybody has $50 a month. I'm personally not gonna pay $50 a month or more for, a basic workout plan that might not even work for me. That's another thing too, is, what works for one person may not work for another person. What works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. Everybody's genetics are different. So my goal with this channel is to create something that people can come to draw inspiration from, a completely free platform. I'm not interested in making money off of, people that are just trying to make ends meet. If it gets to the point where I can monetize this, I'd rather be, making money off of YouTube or, any other social media platforms that I can monetize. I don't want to take anything out of, the pockets of everyday, working people. And I want to create videos that are relatable or that come off as achievable to anybody that's watching. I'm not going to edit my videos. And when I say edit, I mean, obviously I'm going to cut stuff out, but I'm not going to add explosions or cool loud music while, I'm doing a training montage or anything. It's not going to be anything like that. I've become a fan of unedited videos because it makes you feel like you can do what the person you're watching is doing, rather than, feel like you're watching a movie with some of these, YouTube videos and everything. And so my goal is to do daily, I guess, fitness vlogs, I guess is what you can call them. I'm going to do at least 5 videos a week. And with that, on Mondays, I think I'm going to do a weekly weigh-in. So today is Sunday. So tomorrow I will start doing weekly weigh-ins. I will be showing you guys my physique weekly, and I will be measuring myself every week, probably just like chest size and waist size, and just kind of keeping track of that, so we can, over time see the progress together. My goals as far as my weight loss goes, I know everybody always gives it a number. They're like, oh, if I could just get down to this weight, I'll have accomplished my goal. That's what I did, for my wedding. Like I said, my goal was to lose 100 pounds, and, you know, nothing really beyond that. My goals are very different this time. I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm not going to put a time limit on it. If it takes me 1 year to achieve my goal, which I really don't think it will, great. That's great. If it takes me 2 years, fine. If it takes me 5 years, fine. I'm in no rush really, and I think that's a major key in weight loss, and that's something that's oftentimes overlooked. A lot of people fall into the same category that I did, or fall into the same mindset that I did for my wedding. I'm like, okay, I have a year, I need to lose 100 pounds, you know, and then they just go, balls to the wall for a year. And then once they reach the goal, they don't know how to maintain it. And so my goal this time is, again, I'm not going to put a number on it. This time it's going to be more of like how I feel. So if I, drop down to say 240 and then, you know, be like, I feel good, but I'd probably feel better a little lighter. drop down to say 220. Well, if I get down to 220, I feel like I'm, starving or something, and felt way better than 240, and then I'm gonna, go back up to 240 where I felt better. Those numbers aren't my goal. That's just an example. But yeah, it's really just gonna be how I feel. Can I go up a flight of stairs without getting winded? Can I go on longer walks without feeling so fatigued? You know, little things like that. It's going to be more of a feeling. How do I feel at that weight? How do I feel, in general? You know, do my knees hurt? Do I feel like I'm eating enough? Do I feel like I'm eating too much? That sort of thing. And going from that into my diet, I am not doing anything crazy. I am not going to be doing that god awful chicken and rice and broccoli diet. You know, it's not for me. I tried it last year. I did it for about a month. I did lose weight. I lost about 10 pounds that month, but I felt awful all the time because I was just eating the same thing over and over and over again. And I just could not enjoy my food. I think that's a problem that a lot of people run into is they expect the diet that they choose to just completely work for them, be it keto or Atkins or, whatever the diet is, they just want it to work for them so bad. And then come to find out it doesn't work for them. And they, will oftentimes fall off track because they just don't want to keep eating that same food over and over and over again. It gets too repetitive for some people. For me, it is. I am currently, as of the recording of this video, I am 363.5 pounds. I did not get to this weight because I don't enjoy food. I want to be on a diet and still enjoy food. What does that look like? Well, it looks like making little swaps. Okay. So instead of, you know, eating 80-20 ground beef in your spaghetti or whatever, opt for 90-10, 93-7, whatever you can find, that's leaner, has less fat. I use spaghetti as, a as an example. You can find, the like chickpea protein noodles. Yeah, I've had them before. They're not, obviously they taste different than the ones with all the carbs and all that, but they're not bad. You can find a low calorie, low sodium pasta sauce, you know, and have more protein and less calories in just, normal spaghetti. It's little things like that. Halo Top ice cream instead of Ben and Jerry's. Um, it's going to be little things like that where I can still enjoy food, but not feel absolutely terrible after eating it like I have been up to this point. Now I kind of want to get into what my channel will be and what my channel will not be. What my channel will be, I'm going to be recording myself at the gym doing, exercises and everything. I'm going to record every set, every rep. Um, I'm going to try to keep every video within like the 20 to 30 minute range if I can. And then I'm also going to be showing every meal that I eat. I probably will not be showing the full cooking process of some of these things because that's going to make the videos way too long. But I will give a quick description of like the measurements that I used, what degree I cooked it at, those sorts of things. Quick, easy peasy, easy to follow without having to watch, a 10-minute segment of me cooking. What my channel will not be, my channel will not be a place to discuss politics. I'm not going to get into that whatsoever. I will not be getting into current affairs at any point. I have my own beliefs. I know everybody has their own beliefs. I'm not going to sit here and air mine out on, you know, social media. It's just not what I'm going to do. The world is crazy right now. I get that. We're all right in the middle of it. And I would like this channel to be an escape from that. I don't think anybody should go on YouTube or any social media platform and be like, oh, I wonder what my favorite influencer thinks about, you know, any current affair. I think, this should be a place free of that. If you want that, you know, go to CNN, go to Fox News, whatever your preference. This is not going to be the place for it. I'm not going to make any comments about anything of that nature whatsoever. This is also going to be a family friendly channel. You will not hear me using any profanity. I want, if this channel does take off, which I'm hoping it does, but not expecting it to, but if it does, I would like to create a platform that families can watch together. You know, um, Parents can watch it with their kids. Kids can watch it with their parents. Whatever. Everything's going to be family friendly. Everything's going to be appropriate for all ages. So again, just to close, I'm doing this again for two reasons. One is to hold myself accountable. Again, I think recording myself, putting it out there on the internet, having even just a couple people watching it and expecting me to keep going is going to hold me accountable. It's going to keep me going. And then the other thing is to try and inspire somebody that is in my shoes right now. If you're watching this, if you've made it this far in the video, thanks. And if you're watching this and you're like, man, a lot of what he said, I relate to. I'm not happy where I am. I want to change. Then, feel free to, you know, take anything out of my videos and apply it to yourself. Again, I'm trying to create a free platform for people to watch and be inspired by, you know even if it's just one person that becomes inspired by these videos. Then it'll be worth it to me. It honestly will. I know people say that all the time, but if I can change just one life by changing my own, that's huge. That's a huge accomplishment to me. It really is. And that's what I want. I want people to watch these videos and be like, oh, I can do that. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm going to be doing the most basic workouts. I'm going to be doing kind of like the most basic diet. Like, I'm still going to be eating what I want to eat. I'm just going to be opting for the lower carb, the lower calorie, the higher protein options. I'm going to go to the gym and, I don't want to make it sound like I'm going to, be lackadaisy in the gym by any means. I'm going to work hard. I'm probably going to start every morning off by going on a walk with my wife and my dog. And then I'll get into probably what I ate for breakfast. Then I'll, record myself at the gym, my workouts, everything like that. What I eat for lunch or what I eat for dinner, depending on, what time of day I train. And that'll be that. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not in a position right now where I can do anything crazy. I'm not going to be doing like any push-up challenges or pull-up challenges or, you know, 5Ks or anything like that. I'm not in shape. It's going to be very, very basic to start with. My goal is not to be a world-class athlete. I'm not trying to break any world records. I'm not trying to put up any massive amount of weights. I'm not gonna, my lifts probably are not gonna be that impressive. I'm not gonna be putting up Brian Shaw type of numbers during my workouts at all. I'm just going to be doing, heavy weight with as many reps as I can do, really. I'm just trying to do something that is easy for other people to follow. I don't draw inspiration really from any fitness influencers right now, to be honest with you, because they either A, have great genetics, they can eat whatever they want, not gain anything, you know, and then go to the gym and get a great pump and look phenomenal. Can't relate to that, I do not have good genetics. Or B, they're juiced up to the gills. And it's like, well, I'm just a regular dude. I'm not, juicing. I'm not, you know, trying to compete in bodybuilding or strongman or anything like that. I'm just trying to get healthy. And that's what I see is lacking right now in the fitness industry is everybody is, trying to do all these challenges to get views and everything, or they're on some enhancers, which is not, it's just not relatable to me whatsoever. I think a lot of, fitness influencers kind of forget about the influence part. I don't think a lot of them influence people in the way that they can be. A lot of them are just in it for the money. I'm not in it for the money whatsoever. I'm in it, to get healthy for myself. And then again, like I've already stated, to inspire others that may be in the exact same situation that I'm in right now. So if you're watching these videos and like I said, say, hey, that guy is, in the same spot I am, everything he talked about, I relate to, then follow me, you know, um, do, let's do this thing together. There's no shame in it. Again, putting, I'm not going to be doing anything extraordinary. I'm just doing what I need to do in order to lose weight. And, if you would like to join me in, losing weight or, just overall bettering yourself, then I encourage you to keep watching my journey. And I encourage you to watch my videos. Um, they're going to be unedited. They're not going to be anything super fancy. They're just going to be plain Jane, really. And I'm going to try to be as relatable as possible. That's going to do it for today. Tomorrow, I will be starting officially. As of the recording of this, I do not have a gym membership anywhere. So tomorrow, I will be purchasing a gym membership at my old gym. I'm very excited to get started there again. This time with a very different mindset. Last time, like I said, I was training strongman and everything. Will not be doing anything like that whatsoever. I'm going into it with the sole purpose of losing weight and just feeling better about myself. So if you're going to follow along, work starts tomorrow.